What's up, everybody? So we got this turboed Civic up on the dyno. So before I got on the dyno, I noticed a couple things that weren't that big of a deal. And you know, even though our dyno, so we have if you're new to these videos, we have a dyno checklist. And if you email rcautoworks@gmail.com, we'll send you a dyno checklist. It's free, doesn't cost you a thing. Now, there's a couple things on this vehicle, including one was oil leaks. That's on our checklist, that should be taken care of, but I'm not strict with that stuff. You know, I get it. Get where you guys are coming from. And I wasn't going to originally do a video, but as I continue to try, and the key word is try, to tune this thing, it is one thing after another. Now, if you're just a first-time watcher and you've never been here before and you've never seen these dyno ready videos, I do these videos for one reason, and it's to help people out. It really is. It's not to bash people. Everybody starts somewhere. And I remember when I first started somewhere and whatnot, and you know, so you know, I feel where you guys are coming from. So a little background story. This car originally came in, and we diagnosed that the motor was actually bad. We did a compression and a leak down beforehand, and he had a bad cylinder. He did an engine swap. Turnaround time was pretty quick. I think he did the engine swap in like 2 days or something. He got the car back to us. Now, I told him, before you bring it back, don't rush the car. And I was trying to show you guys, and I ultimately have to find my light, and it's over here, so give me 1 second. I'm just trying to show you guys as I talk, just a little stuff that you're going to see. And so I'm going to, you can see the turbo is leaking oil from the inlet. That's what I was trying to show you guys. You can see the return line. So on the return line is actually used, that's pipe that you would get from Menards. Not only that, the return line hose, and you can, return line hoses being smashed by the intercooler piping, and it's actually heater hose. So if I do this, it's super soft. Heater hose is not meant for oil. Now there's some other stuff too that I saw underneath. When I get the car off, I'll show you guys. Not a huge deal because it wasn't leaking massively. But as I said, as I continue to go into this thing, it's one thing after another. Now, what I was trying to say beforehand is I get everybody starts from somewhere, but keeping in mind before I even do this, when I'm on the dyno, when a car's on the dyno, we're taking it to the peak level of where it needs to perform, which means I have to listen for random noises. I have to listen for anything that's going to be out of the norm. Now, at times on my videos, if you ever see me, I do wear headphones, but they still allow me to hear certain things. Now, when you bring me a car like this, and this is doing this constantly during the tune, what do you think I'm going to be able to hear? Let's say something is starting to rattle loose in the bay, and I'm trying to catch it really quick. Well, I'm not going to be able to catch anything because this is all I'm hearing inside the car. That's unacceptable. It could be your first time working on a car, first time doing an engine swap. Now, I didn't even look of why it's not bolted down. I mean, there's holes there. Should have had my camera light on. I can't turn my camera light on, but I don't know. Whatever. So, you go over to here, which I'm not even that picky. Some people bring me cars like this. It is what it is. I don't know what to say about it, but so not only, I mean, we're talking about peak performance that we need to make power out of this car. These cars don't originally come with turbos, and they originally don't come with 200, 300, 400, 500 horsepower. And you can see as I move this over here, everything is moving inside there. So, that's never good. Now, I'm going to have to hop in here and I'm going to show you guys some other stuff. This one ultimately is on a chipped ECU, which means a customer cannot hook up easily like an S300 and diagnose anything that is going on internally. I'm sorry, with the ECU. What I mean by that is the S300 can be hooked up, and if it was on a Honda S300, you could hook that up and you could see what's going on. You could see a check engine light. Now that still goes without saying, if you have a chipped ECU, you could still read your check engine lights. There's a way how to do it. It's not that hard. You can, 2 seconds on YouTube or Google, you'll find it out. As I continue to get in this car and I erase the check engine lights that keep popping up, there is no intake air temp sensor, so the check engine light will keep popping up. I can't disable it with a chipped ECU. S300, you can disable it, but as I tell people, why would you want to disable it? There's actually a sensor there too, and I apologize for that. There's a sensor right there. You can see it's probably just twisted together and then taped. I didn't even look into the wiring to see if it's correct, because ultimately, you know, cars shouldn't have any check engine lights that are going to pose an issue on the dyno. An intake air temperature sensor is a very good sensor to have while you're tuning. We go into this. We got one 4-bar map sensor, and then we have our 4-bar map sensor. So what we're trying to do ultimately, and what we always do, is we're trying to save the customer money. I'm going to take that 4-bar map sensor off, and I'm not going to charge him for that. The reason it is hooked up that way is because his map sensor is not reading at all. So I can only assume that the gasket that they used, or some guys will put gobs of RTV in here, are just blocking the sensor. Or the sensor's bad. Well, we're not trying to diagnose that, because ultimately his bill's going to go up higher. Now the other thing, as I get into it, and I'll have to start this up, not only does this thing smoke like a chimney, I mean, it's bad. It's bad enough that I don't want to get into boost, because I don't know if, number one, the turbo is going to explode, or number two, if the engine's going to explode. Now, it's on the dyno, and I'm tuning it. So if I don't feel comfortable, what would be the smart move to do? Not get into boost, right? Exactly. If a car blows up on the dyno, it's one of those things where even if the customer says go ahead, well, every now and then you get their buddy that comes in and says, hey, such and such told me you blew up his car. He's not telling you the full story there. Same with the other stuff. Well, you know, I heard such and such came here, he made no power. Well, did he tell you the full story? Did he tell you that his couplers were blowing off nonstop? Did he tell you that he had boost leaks, vacuum leaks? Which I'm going to start this car up here shortly, and you're going to see. I'm going to show you not only the smoking, I'm going to show you the check engine light, but I'm going to show you the vacuum leak that's actually coming from the intake manifold. All this stuff can be corrected. He also had the vacuum hooked up wrong on his wastegate. Not a huge deal. That happens. We take care of that, but if you take a second to go over your setup thoroughly, you would know. The other thing, as I'm continuing to look at it, we had to remove the power steering pump. We had to remove it for 2 reasons. One, there was no reservoir and no lines hooked up to it, so it was leaking continuously on the dyno. That's one. Number 2, since you had no lines hooked up to it, but he still had the belt hooked up to it, well, ultimately, what do you think would have happened to a power steering pump? Either it would have puked all the fluid out on the dyno, or let me say this, continued to puke all the fluid out, or the pump would have went bad and this and this and that. So, we can continue. I told him that I noticed that his power wire is not only, I don't want to touch it. So I'm going to have to point to it. Right there. That's a power wire that's live. Not only that, it's resting on that bolt. So it looks like it's been taped maybe once or twice. If that rubs through and starts arcing, There's no fuse between there and the end point. Your car will literally burn down to the ground. That is nothing to mess around with. A lot of people, whatever, no big deal. That is not to be taken lightly. Now we go in the back, and I'm going to climb over here, and I'm going to pop this trunk open. So give me 1 second here. I'll be right back. I don't want to fall. We go in the back, and, you know, we're talking about noises again. Well, you got 2 jacks in here. You got a bunch of parts. Whatever. No big deal. I can handle that. You got a jack stand over there. I get it. Maybe you work on the car. Maybe you work in an alley. No big deal. The battery cables were hand tight. Now my guys tightened them because when it was on the dyno and I was just going freely, all of a sudden I had no power. So I hop out the car, start checking stuff, and the battery cables were just hanging off. Now, as I said, this ain't to bash people. This ain't to make people feel bad. I've been actually getting a lot of good feedback from these videos, and people have been telling me the same thing. Thank you for doing the videos. Please continue to do them. I am learning a ton, and I'm saving, ultimately, me the hassle. But I also get some guys that are saying, hey, I saved my tuner. I got some guys that are across, in Cali. I saved them time. This is what these videos are about. These videos are not to shame people, not to make people feel bad. There's some stuff that's okay. You're learning. You're new to this stuff. But there's some stuff that's just not acceptable. It's that easy. Now, I'm going to hop in the car. I'm going to show you how much this is smoking. And I'm going to show you the check engine light and how quick it comes back on. And ultimately, at the end of the day, as I said this before in videos, and if you watch this, and I'm trying to stabilize my camera there, so bear with me. When a car is on the dyno, I want it to reach its full potential. If you're trying to make 400 horsepower and you make 380, I'm going to let you know why you didn't make that power and what you can do to help it out. If you made 400 horsepower and your goal was 400 horsepower, maybe it was on 15 pounds of boost, I'm going to tell you what you can do to make the same power on less boost, to not stress your motor out that much. I want to see people be successful when the car is on the dyno, or their car, you can say. Not only now is it more time, it's going to be more money for him, and with how booked up we are, we have to shuffle it back on the dyno after he brings it back. Now this car's already been back 2 times now. I get everybody has a starting point. There's some stuff that is okay, you're learning. There's other stuff that is just sloppy work. You can call it lazy, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Some stuff is just not acceptable no matter which way you cut it. If you're not capable of doing something yourself, then don't try to do it. Don't try to, for some odd reason, I don't know why customers do this, they like to leave out information for us that makes our job that much harder. Or when we're trying to diagnose something, then we get a little more info like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, such and such, we tried this, or such and such did that already. Makes our job harder. We want the cars to keep rotating here in a timely manner. If we get a car in and it just sits, I mean, think about it in a business sense. A car sitting here is not making me money, it's taking up space. Now, we're super busy. It is what it is. I'm blessed to have this work, not complaining at all. So I do take some cars in that will take, a couple days to get to. And we're all straightforward with that. Me or Chelsea answers the messages on Facebook, phone calls. We tell people, hey, you could bring your car in, but we're not going to be able to get to it till such and such. Or if something comes up, I've had a couple cars stuck on the dyno or a couple cars that are fighting us, then yes, it's going to take a little bit longer, but we inform you on that. So that's my rant. I'm going to get inside the car, and I'll be right back. Okay, so you guys can see how much it's smoking now, and that's just at idle. Now the other thing here, what I'm going to show you inside is, number one, I'm going to erase the check engine lights, and you guys are going to see how quick they come back on. What I'm trying to show you guys in this video is It's not like these check engine lights are new and just like not happening. So when the customer, you know, if he started the car, but I don't know beforehand, because this is one of the downsides of being on a chipped ECU. Unless you get a chip beforehand set up for the tune, it's not as easy as me just emailing you a base map like Hondata. But if you're on a chipped ECU, this stuff has to be checked. I mean, it just has to be. And that's one of the downsides of running a chipped ECU. It's not easy as a customer to check that. I have an ECU that basically feeds live data to my computer, and you're going to see here in a second, and then I burn the chip. So give me 1 second here. So really quick, you'll see that he has 2 check engine lights. Right now we have the program that I tune on for chipped ECUs. It's called Neptune. You'll see his chipped ECU right there on the left, and mine is on the right, and the cover's off so you guys can actually see. You can see the green light blinking. That means it's sending data to the computer in real-time form. His harness also is disconnected because his harness, one of the wires or whatever, is not going to the right place, so we swapped over this one and it fixed the other issue. He had one other check engine light that was going on, and it just didn't make sense to us, so I swapped over my harness. We see these harnesses a lot, and we see them being a problem a lot because they're about, I think they're like $5 or $10 off Amazon. So one of those things, you get what you pay for. Now, going back to here, we're going to erase these, and you're going to see the intake air temp come right back up. Usually when a check engine light comes right back up like that, most of the times it's a wiring issue. The computer sends a signal, it needs to see something back as a reference. If it doesn't see the correct reading, it throws the code right away. Most times. What you're going to see though when I start it up, which, 2 things. The ECU, the key's actually primed, and we don't want to get it start up, so we're losing either fuel pressure. I just reprimed it and cycled it. Now watch. Starts right up. And you saw how that check engine light popped right up. So it shut off for a brief second because the key wasn't in the on position, but this stuff could be avoided. Now, as I'm losing my battery life on my phone here, screen got a little dim. This could all be avoided. If you follow the checklist, and if you say, hey, I got a chipped ECU, I don't know how to check the check engine lights, I'll gladly send you a link that will show you how to check the check engine lights. The other stuff now too, as I was going into the tune, he's got a vacuum leak. He's got a vacuum leak around the intake manifold. I'll include that video here shortly. I'll chop it in. Okay, had to give myself some time here to put that little footage in here. Now, the vacuum leak, his bolts are coming loose on the intake manifold. We installed the injectors, so we want to make sure the injectors are not leaking at the intake manifold. You'll see the video that we took that I chopped in right beforehand here. The biggest thing is, and there's really no dyno footage on this one, use this car as a learning experience, guys. Even if you have a chipped ECU, you could still get it in a lot better shape for the dyno. And some stuff, as I said, it's just unacceptable. I understand people are trying to learn. By all means, I love to teach people. I love to learn myself. So I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying bring the car here or bring it to another shop and spend, you know, thousands of dollars. You learn by doing things. And the video is not to shame people at all. Hopefully more people can see these videos and learn and watch, and also see, I know I'm not the only tuner that goes through this stuff. And at the end of the day, some guys will want to, you know, shoot the tuner, you know, give the tuner a bad rep. We hear it like on a daily basis. There's always 2 sides of the story, number 1. Number 2, you know, you got to make sure that your car's set up. It's that simple. And not just basic stuff. If you want to make good power, you got to make sure it's set up appropriately. Make sure you have a good setup. If you're confused on something, let's say turbo manifolds. Hey, which turbo manifold should I go with the setup? Ask your tuner. If your tuner knows what he's doing and he's familiar with these cars, he's going to know right off the bat. I myself have to know a wide range of vehicles because I tune a bunch of cars, not just Hondas. But by no means, and I've been doing this now for 21 years, I have no problem telling somebody, hey, I'm not sure. Your best bet is to just research on the internet. You know, it's no reason to fake stuff. And I've learned that. I've learned that. Unfortunately, I think some people, I think it's like a pride thing. I think it's a pride or an ego thing. But with that being said, hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Once again, and I always tell people, if you need help, you can message, you can comment down below, you can email me. It's not to shame anybody. Everybody starts somewhere. You got to learn. And I encourage it. You know, do your work. And especially if you're trying to do this in the long run, if you're trying to branch out, maybe be like a mechanic long term and stuff. But, you know, some stuff just not, it's not acceptable. Call it what you want to call it. Laziness. I don't know. I really don't know on some of this stuff. But, you know, I like to document this stuff to help you guys and educate you guys. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you guys are, whatever time you're watching this or enjoying, or whatever. Take care, guys. One more thing, because I was losing my train of thought here on the video. My messages were going, we're blowing up, and it's the work day, so I got other stuff that I got to do too. What I was trying to get the point across too is on some parts that you buy, you got to realize if you're buying no-name parts, if you're buying a turbo off eBay or Amazon or whatever you want to say that's super cheap, if you're buying injectors that are super cheap, you're taking a gamble. You're taking a gamble, and that could be a very good reason why your tune is not 100% like it should. We're talking about knockoff, no-name injectors that cost $100 from like Amazon or eBay. We're also talking about turbos. Some of these no-name turbos are so hit or miss. You don't know at the end of the day why your car's not making the power. Is it the turbo? Not sure. Is it something else? Not sure. So what you have to remember, and my phone's about to die here, that you're taking a gamble on certain parts. And when you start taking a gamble on certain parts, then you start playing the what if game. When you have an issue on the dyno or you don't make the power, you start playing that, well, is it because of this? Is it because of that? And at the end of the day, the one thing you can never get back in life is time. And time, of course, in a business sense, costs money. So we always try to keep the bill down here, and we don't want to keep having to charge people. That's why we had the 4-bar map sensor hooked up separate, because I'm going to take that. Sorry, my phone just literally died as I was doing that video. But what I was saying is we don't want the bill to go up higher than it has to be. And that's why you saw with the 4-bar map sensor, it was wired, it was hooked up with a vacuum over there, so we don't have to diagnose that problem, so we don't have to, you know, charge him extra. So we're trying to save everybody money here. But yeah, so I think that's about it. I think I touched base with everything. I appreciate you guys. I really appreciate the feedback. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Take care.